Good morning and welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy and this is where characters gather. So this morning I have a funny story to share at the end. I have a rant to share while talking about the books I read. And I believe it's 2 DNFs for the week. Let's see. Let's check the handy dandy calendar. Yep, 2 DNFs this week. So let's talk about the DNFs first and then we will get into the books I read. So first up, I DNF'd the first book in the Mitford Murders, which is called The Mitford Murders by Jessica Fellows. And I was just bored. I could care less what was going on in the book. I was bored. You know, yes, she was a writer for Downton Abbey, which I adored, but this was not that. So DNF'd it. And then I DNF'd Dead in Dublin by Catie Murphy, which is the first book in the Drivers of Dublin series. And I DNF'd it because there's a dead body in chapter 1. There's no backstory. There's no nothing. There's a dead body. And Kahlua is full of herself this morning, just so you're all aware. And I can't stand when there's a dead body in the first chapter and there's no introduction to it. And this was definitely that. So I have way too many other things to read, so I DNF'd it, moved on. Okay. So what did I read this week? I finished 4 books and they're all related. They are not related genre-wise. They are not related in any respect, except they all had female leads. And 3 of those 4 books had strong female leads. And the 4th book did not. And so I'm going to talk about the 4th book first so I can contrast it with the other 3. So that is right here. It's The Fallback Plan by Melanie Jacobson. It is the 2nd book in the Sweater Weather series. And I initially read it on Kindle Unlimited. It asked you to give a star rating. So I initially gave it a 3 rating on Goodreads. And I have since revised that rating to a 1. So far, based on my Instagram feed, I am by far in the minority in this, but I did not like this book. I did not like this book at all. It did nothing well. So, our female protagonist is Jolie, and Jolie moves back to Harvest Hollow after she quits her high-powered finance job in Chicago, breaks up with her boyfriend, buys a bar in town, and promptly decides to fix up said bar without using any local services to do so. She is quite clearly, from the beginning of this book, a petty, vindictive 30-something who cannot get over what happened in her past and is just a walking vat of anger and vindictiveness and pettiness. And I didn't like her from the beginning. I did not find anything about her relatable. I did not find anything about her enjoyable to read. I did not find the book funny. I did not find the romance relatable. I did not find the romance believable. I did not even understand how this book can be considered rom-com. There was nothing funny. Not once in this book did I so much as crack a smile. Should have trusted my gut and DNF'd it. I did not. I pushed through. She was a new to me author. I figured it was going to get better. I was wrong. I found Jolie to be so petty and stuck in the past. And, you know, she claimed she had therapy to deal with her anxiety. And you see a little bit of her trying to deal with her anxiety in the book. But apparently she managed to go through all this therapy and never once discuss her traumatic childhood. By traumatic childhood, I mean she was poor and she had an alcoholic father. Yes, that is hard. Yes, millions of people are poor when they're growing up. My husband was one. And yet he still moved past it. And he's not a petty, vindictive, insecure person. If you are stuck in what happened to you when you were 15 and you are 30-something and you have been highly successful in your post-college life and your post-high school life, and you haven't found a way to deal with your past, why on earth would you move home to the town you claim to have hated? As you can tell, did not like this book. I really, 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 really didn't like this book. So the next 3 books all have a female lead. They all have a female lead that is has suffered trauma, has learned to deal with it and cope, and they are of varying ages. So we're going to talk about the youngest one first. And so that book would be Halo: Legacy of Onyx by Matt Forbeck. And this is obviously related to the video game, but you don't have to play the video games to enjoy the Halo books. They're very loosely connected. So this was part of my reading choices for Space Opera September. I generally enjoy Halo novels, so this wasn't an onerous read for me. Story opens, and our heroine, Molly Patel, is 7 years old, and she is attempting to evacuate her home planet of Paris 4 as the Covenant, the bad guys throughout the Halo series, are glassing her planet, which means they're destroying her planet. And so Molly and her parents are in their vehicle and they're fleeing to the spaceport. And everything is just destruction all around them. Molly's dad, the beam to get them is very, very close. He gets into a tunnel. He's going too fast. He doesn't see the truck in front of him that is stopped, and he T-bones the truck. Molly's parents are killed instantly. Molly is strapped into the back seat. She's 7. She is then rescued by Marines and evacuated off planet. And she's eventually returned to Earth, adopted by good friends of her parents, who she calls her new parents. And so in the book, she's now 16. And her parents inform her that, her new parents inform her that they've accepted a job off planet on a very highly secretive position with Kahlua. Kahlua. Naval intelligence. Whew, okay. Hyperactive dogs this morning. So Molly's parents tell them that they've accepted this job with naval intelligence, and she's going to have to go live among not just humans, but alien species on the planet, go to high school with them. And some of those species would be the ones responsible for the glassing of her planet and obviously killing her parents and her sister. Needless to say, Molly is not on board with this. She realizes she has no choice. She reluctantly goes. Turns out high school isn't as bad. She slowly begins to integrate into school and maybe not necessarily make friends, but she's learning to come to terms with the aliens she could not make peace with before she moved to the space station, to this naval intelligence facility, and she certainly never anticipated making friends with them. So this 16-year-old is beginning to deal with her trauma. She's beginning to deal with, and she's had extensive therapy with her. Her new parents weren't heartless, and turns out that 16-year-old is far more mature than Jolie in the fallback plan. She not only is learning to deal and communicate with alien species that killed her family, she comes to the defense of one. She's making friends with them. And eventually, there's 4 high school students, Molly and 3 others. They become friends, and they help thwart a splinter of the Covenant, who's now been defeated, attempt to take over the facility. And yeah, she's 16. It's a little unrelated, and sure, the fanboys hated this novel because it wasn't Master Chief and it wasn't filled with battles, but she's a strong female protagonist. She has moved past what happened to her. She hasn't forgotten it. She hasn't, completely blocked it out, but she's dealing with it. She's moving forward, and she's not letting the past dictate her present, unlike Jolie. So next up would be so next strong female lead is going to be Layla Corley, and I'll put a picture of the book right here, in Search No Good by Catherine Bruns, and this was a NetGalley arc, and so this is going to be my honest review in exchange for the arc, and this was much better than the first book. I didn't hate the first book, but I thought it was a little weak. In this one, a lot of my complaints from the first book were handled, and it is a much better cozy mystery than A Doom Full of Sugar. So Search No Good, it's about 6 months from the events of the first book. Layla's best friend is about to get married. They go to her bridal shower, and her cantankerous aunt by marriage ends up murdered. And in order to save her best friend's very expensive wedding, Layla agrees to investigate. And this is a much better laying of clues. It is a much better character development. And Layla is dealing with the grief of her father's murder in the first book. She is sticking up for herself with her mother, who discovers that Layla's ex-fiance is back in town, and she automatically assumes that Layla is going to dump her boyfriend, get back together with her ex-fiance, and get married. In fact, her boyfriend, ex-fiance, assumes that too, and so Layla has to stick up for herself, and she grows in this book as a character. She isn't whiny. She isn't stuck in the past. She has let go of the grief of the breakup with her ex-fiance a month before their wedding, and this was just a much better book than the first one. I enjoyed it immensely, and I read it in a couple of hours, and I'm looking forward to the third book in the series because this one was so good, and Layla showed so much character growth, and she isn't letting the trauma of her father's murder, almost being killed herself, just stop her life and turn her into a victim. There is no victimhood in this book, and I greatly appreciated that. So the last book I read this last week was A Dangerous Beauty by Melissa Koslin, and many of you have read this. I know the hype for me to read this was extensive. Okay, so I've read this. This is Christian romantic suspense. Layla is our female character. She is a victim of human trafficking, and she escapes. She runs to a truck stop. She's, a nice woman in the bathroom offers to help her. She turns it down. She steps outside, and she meets Merrick, who is the male protagonist, and he offers to marry her. It's a marriage of convenience. She realizes that's her only chance to stay in the U.S. She agrees. I appreciated the short chapters. I appreciated the suspense and the tension in the book. I appreciated the fact that Liliana, didn't wallow in the grief, but made her, she made herself deal with it to some extent. I don't think nearly enough. I think given what she has gone through, I have some issues, but at least she wasn't a helpless victim in this marriage of convenience who did nothing. I didn't hate the book. I didn't enjoy the book. This was just a middle of the road. Had this just been a Christian suspense and the ending different, this would have been much higher for me. However, because they labeled it romantic suspense and the ending, I really just no. I don't think these people actually knew each other. I don't think they actually knew anything enough to say, I love you, let's get married again. I didn't find the romance remotely believable, and I certainly don't believe a romance or a marriage out of trauma for both characters. Different trauma. Both characters have severe trauma, just severe trauma in their past. That has not been dealt with has any chance of survival. I didn't hate the book, but I didn't necessarily, I didn't love it. I didn't love it. It was a great thriller. It was a great suspense book. The romance killed the overall vibe of the book for me. It was just weird and inappropriate and unbelievable and unsustainable, in my opinion. So, everybody will have a different reaction to it, but that's mine. Okay, so what am I planning to read this week? Well, I will undoubtedly read the next installment in the Sweater Weather series. I think it's from Courtney Walsh. It would be my second Courtney Walsh book this year. Did not like the first one in the slightest. That was The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley. So this is kind of the last chance for Courtney Walsh for me. And off of my pile of possibilities, I'm starting Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert. This is also for Space Opera September. This is not a very long Dune book at all. It's less than 250 pages, I think. 267. So this is a afternoon for me at most. Read, and then I did go to the library this last week. Got a bunch of books. Some of them are for a video for related to Victober. A bunch of them I checked out to see if I wanted to read them. There's an entire bag already going back. But out of the ones I know I'm interested in reading, I'm probably this week going to pick up and read Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is his first one in the Claim the Stars series, I believe is the name of the series. And this is young adult sci-fi. It's definitely a space opera. I like Sanderson's writing. He reads quickly, so even though this is a chunker of a book, it's just over 500 pages. I'm not worried about being able to finish it. And so, without spoiling the books for the next video, actually, those are probably going in the video too, or something else. So, that was my reading week. It's probably what's coming up next in my reading choices. So, now for life update. Here comes the funny story. We went to bed Friday night. It was perfectly normal. Fell asleep about 2. Felicity woke me up. She had to go outside, so I got up, grabbed my phone, went downstairs, took him outside, and since it's hot and it's really cool at 2:30 in the morning, she spends a decent amount of time outside at that hour of the day. So about 2:15, I smell a whiff of something, but it's happened before, so I wasn't on high alert. She eventually comes in about 2:30. I go upstairs. Dogs are a little rambunctious. Dave hasn't been sleeping well, so I go to the guest bedroom. And I'm tired. I'm ready to go back to sleep. It's 2:30 in the morning, right? So the girls come, they lay down, they curl up. And Fireball goes back and lays down with Daddy. And that bedroom begins to stink. And by stink, I mean, oh my stars, stink. So I think skunk is sprayed outside, front of the house. And it's just, close and I can smell it. No. about 3:30, Dave wakes up, and I'm awake at this point. I'm about to go get him because the smell is not dissipating. And he's like, I think we have an electrical fire. Like, I think Felicity gets, sprayed by a skunk. What? Yeah, sprayed by a skunk. So at this point, she comes into the bedroom where I'm at with Dave, and he's like, oh, she stinks. I'm like, yeah, she stinks. So he takes her in the shower, and he's scrubbing her down for a half hour. I'm trying to get the other dog to, relax. He's probably done in the shower at 4. I'm trying to go back to sleep at this point. The other 2 dogs aren't at all affected by the skunk. They didn't get sprayed. So Felicity comes to bed with us, put her under, a blanket so she can, stay warm. Didn't remotely get the smell off of her. Wake up Saturday morning, washing all the linens. She still stinks. We're buying stuff to get her clean. We spent all weekend attempting to get the smell off of Felicity. It's still not completely off of Felicity, but it's much better. It is much, much, much better. But, wow. If your dog gets sprayed by a skunk, it's no joke. I will, in the description down below, I will leave a link to the thing that actually helped her the most. She got sprayed right between the eyeballs. So the top of her head and her snout are the ones that smell by far the worst. The rest of her coat is fine. Didn't get it. Her collar got soaked. And I would say the smell on her is now 80-85% back to normal. And it's just going to take a while to get the rest of it out of her. But it isn't so overpowering that the rest of the house stinks. We had bowls of vinegar everywhere and Febreze, and I washed a lot of clothes this weekend and bed linens and towels, and it was so much fun. So that was our weekend. How was yours? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.